Welcome to the fourth module in the Activate training webinar. I'm Bruce Wexler, professor at Yale, chief scientist and founder of C8 Sciences. In this module, I'm going to share with you the research showing that Activate works. To review what we already know, we know that executive cognitive skills, particularly focused attention, self-control, and memory, are essential for learning and predict math and reading achievement. We know that poverty compromises development of these exact cognitive skills needed for learning. We know they're also compromised in children with learning disabilities, like ADHD, for example. But because poverty compromises these executive function skills, poverty compromises the child's ability to learn in school, and we see these large achievement gaps related to poverty that are unacceptable in the modern world. So from a neuroscientist perspective, when I look at that, I say, well, there's a pretty straight shot here. Why don't we improve focus, self-control, and memory? Why don't we directly train those cognitive skills? Why don't we harness the brain's neuroplastic potential to be able to accelerate its growth now and help those children catch up first in their cognitive skills and then catch up in their academic achievement? So the research I'm going to show you first demonstrates that yes, Activate can improve these targeted executive function skills essential for learning. And then the big question, does that transfer to actual improvement on the state-administered proficiency exams? In other words, does it actually help close achievement gaps? So the results are, to give you the preview, yes, we can do all those things I just said. And what we are doing when we're doing that is that we are opening the jar to learning. I said in the last module that you can't pour water into a jar when the lid is closed. And attempting to address achievement gaps in math or reading by simply pouring more math in, or trying to pour more math in, more math time in, a new flavor of math. Let's pour some more reading in. It won't go in the bottle unless you open the jar first, and that's what Activate does. And then to review again, the importance of these executive function skills go way beyond simply learning what you need to learn in elementary school. They predict graduation rates from high school. They predict better job outcomes. They predict less drug use. They predict less unsafe sex. So the next slide shows a published study of over 1,000 children in which we gave them Activate for about 5 months of training, and we measured attention, self-control, and memory first, and then after the training. And what those tall blue bars show is that in attention, self-control, and memory, all three of these essential cognitive operations, with 5 months of training, and it actually translates into 600 to 800 minutes or 10 hours of cognitive training, children had highly significant gains in attention, self-control, and memory. Now, as a scientist, I asked myself, well, what could explain these improvements besides the effect of the Activate training program? So one possibility is that children are 5 months older. And we know that these executive skills are developing now during this period of a child's life. So maybe they got better just because they were older. But we have data on thousands of children, which I'll show you in a little while. We have data on thousands of children at each grade level, so we know how much each of these cognitive skills improves simply by getting 5 months older. And the middle bar in each of those three shows you how much better children would get on these three tests just from getting older. Now you might say, well, but they took the test twice, so maybe they learned how to do the test. Now might be, don't forget that it was 5 months apart between the times they took the two tests. But anyway, we wanted to seriously consider that possibility. So we gave a bunch of children the test twice with only 2 weeks apart. And that's what the first bar shows, the practice effects, or how much better you get just from taking the test twice. So we have demonstrated that that first challenge that we set for ourselves and the first value that we provide to the students and to you in school, we have met that. We can, by harnessing the brain's neuroplastic potential in a systematic way, improve the executive cognitive skills that are compromised by poverty and that are essential for learning. Now let's look and see what are those improvements in executive function. The Activate training is also related to improvement in the number of kids that pass proficiency exams. So on this slide, I'm going to show you data from 3 different sources. Now this data was all 3 are based on school-administered tests. The first 2 are Pearson tests provided by the Pearson Education Company, and you may be familiar with how they present their results. But in any case, the green part of the bar are the percentage of children that meet proficiency. The yellow parts are the percentage of children that are slightly below proficiency, and the red part are the percentage of children way below proficiency. Now, if you look at the leftmost graph here, what you see is on the 2 bars on the left side of that is what the scores were on this Pearson reading test for 3rd graders for the whole city in which this school was only one part of their school system. The whole district was not using Activate, and you can see in the first of those leftmost bars the Pearson test results in the fall and the spring. Not too much change. The bars on the right side of that first panel is data that a teacher sent to us at her own initiative. She said, I'm in a school with 95% of the kids receiving free or reduced lunch. I see this problem. I want to try the Activate program with my kids. And look what happened to her 3rd grade class. The number of kids who now were proficient way outperformed the rest of the district, even though the school was 95% free and reduced lunch. Now that same year, another teacher, actually from that same city, a 1st grade teacher, said, I'm going to try Activate. My school has 49% of the kids receiving free and reduced lunch. Again, you see the same format. The 2 bars on the left are for the whole district, the whole city. 1st grade kids, math tests, fall and spring, a slight improvement. But look what happened to this school, this classroom that used Activate during that school year. 92% of the kids met proficiency. Never in the history of the school, or probably the district, had they had such a high score. So this certainly encouraged us, but these were just one-offs, 2 teachers trying the program themselves and sending us their data. So then I received a grant from the Roddenberry Foundation. I don't know how many of you know who Gene Roddenberry is, but he was the founder of Star Trek, and this is his family foundation. They gave a grant to me at Yale, see if we could do a systematic study in a larger sample of children. So we did one. There were over 500 children, 2nd graders, all in this study, and they were not from a poverty area. This was actually from an affluent district where only 10% of the kids were receiving free and reduced lunch. But even in that affluent community, we were able to show highly significant increases in the classes that use Activate compared to control classes pre-selected by the schools to serve as controls. These data were so robust that they were published in one of the Nature journals, one of the leading scientific journals in the world. So here's some more data sent to us from a large city in the southern part of the US where they decided to use Activate in their 3 lowest performing elementary schools. And these schools had high percentages of children receiving free and reduced lunch and were demonstrated to have low performance. So high need schools, high need students. Now the district had used the program iReady. Probably you're aware of iReady, know about it already. But iReady is a program of math and reading curriculum, math and reading content, designed to provide students with the exact content they need to meet the standards of proficiency on the state tests. And iReady gives its own proficiency test throughout the school year so that the teachers can monitor progress and the iReady company can see how well they're doing. So the data you see on the left side, those 4 lower bars, are from school year 2015-16, when the district and the 3 low-performing schools were using iReady, but were not using Activate to open the lid on learning. And what happened? The data here shows you how many students gained 1 year in reading. So what's it mean to gain 1 year in reading in 1 year? It means that you're not falling further behind. Look how low the number of kids were in those 3 low-performing schools. 15% or less gained 1 year in reading. Nearly 85% were continuing to fall further behind. The gray bar on the right shows the whole district where they weren't doing much better. So look at the next school year, 2016-17. The 3 lowest performing schools now used Activate and iReady. So Activate could open the jar on learning so iReady could have its effect. And look at the dramatic improvements. Nearly 60% of children gained 2 years of reading, compared to 15% before. And the 3 lowest performing schools clearly outperformed the whole district. Remember, the rest of the district was using iReady, but not Activate. They also sent us the data on the number of children that gained 2 years in reading. So now they're actually catching up, closing that achievement gap. And you can see that the year before, when they used iReady, without our program, the number of kids who gained 2 years in reading was very low. But when they used iReady, that went up to over 50% of the kids in these low-performing schools actually gained 2 years of reading in 1. Now I'm going to show you data from one more school in a different part of the country. Now this school said, we want to use the Activate program. This school was in one of our high needs, high poverty schools, 91% of the kids receiving free and reduced lunch. We want to use Activate in one of our 5th grade classes in this school and use the other 2 5th grades as controls. And then we're going to look at the end of the year at the state-administered proficiency tests in both math and reading. So here's the English language arts test results, the reading skills tests. Let's first look at the control group that received no Activate. That's that second bar. 21% of the kids met proficiency in reading. The whole school didn't do much better. 32% in the whole school met proficiency in reading. But look what happened to the class that used Activate. 60% of the kids in the Activate class met the proficiency standard in reading. And when you looked at kids who did at least 800 minutes of our training, that number went up to 80% met proficiency. The next slide shows you what happened with math. In math, the control class did even worse, only 10% met proficiency. Sadly, the same was generally true for the whole district. Less than 20% met proficiency. But when the class, the 1 5th grade class was given Activate, the class on average 42% now met proficiency. And again, when you look only at the kids who did at least 800 minutes of training, that number went up to 60%. So to me, these are very encouraging data. We know the theory behind it. We know the neuroscience behind it. It should work. In fact, when I made the program, I said if it didn't work, it's because we made it wrong. Because the neuroscience is so convincing, both why children from poverty have poor executive function skills, and that executive function skills are a big part of the reason for the achievement gap. And the data are so clear from a neuroscience perspective that we can promote development by active stimulation of the neurocognitive systems important for executive function. And I'm pleased to say, and encouraged to say, that the data support these original ideas, and we're able to have an impact and help you and other schools close achievement gaps related to poverty.